Guys, it's Mike from Better Me. I'm so glad to be back with you guys today because I have some really important stuff to talk about. Now, a lot of people I think today are really losing a lot of money in their 401ks and their IRAs. And so what I want to understand is, or what I want to explain is, what is the difference between a 401k and an IRA versus something like an Indexed Universal Life Insurance policy or an IUL? Okay, so we're going to kind of talk about those a little bit. Now, the first two things, the IRA and the 401k. So what the heck are these things? So an IRA and a 401k is really just an employee-sponsored plan. And what happens is you go to work for somebody and you automatically get these deductions out of your paycheck. When the deductions come out of your paycheck, what they do is they go into different kinds of investments. And usually the employee can choose the different kinds of investments they want to invest in. They go ahead and invest, and then they can choose to have their employer actually match a contribution on top of a certain percentage. Now, these can be okay, but the problem is when you invest in something like a 401k or an IRA, it's linked to the stock market. So you're actually exposed to market loss. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose any of my money in the market, especially during these times, these crazy times, at the time of this recording, all the inflation going on, all the crazy stuff going on. I want to make sure that my money is secure and my future is secure, my kids' future is secure. I want to make sure my family is safe. And so in order to do that, 401ks, in my opinion, aren't really the way to go. And I try to tell all of my clients that you want to make sure that you have a solid foundation for wealth. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of explain the differences between the 401k and the IUL and kind of go through each one of those differences and see kind of what the pros and cons are. So remember, I said the 401k or the IRA is something that an employer will offer an employee. The employee can elect to contribute money to the 401k, and their employer will match the funds inside that 401k or IRA up to a certain percentage of value. Now, there's a couple things to know about the 401k. There are tax implications to a 401k. There are two different types of 401ks or IRAs. One is a traditional 401k. Now, a traditional 401k is where you do not pay the taxes up front. You actually take a tax deduction. So you actually take a deduction on your taxes, on your taxable income, so it reduces your taxable income, but you pay taxes later. And so I don't know about you, but I'd rather pay taxes on a seed versus the entire harvest. Meaning I would rather pay taxes now than have to pay taxes 10, 20, or 30 years down the road when we know that based on our current economy, based on how much debt we have in this economy, that our taxes are only going to go up. So if you think about it, you're in your golden years, you want to retire, you're 65, 70 years old, you go pull money out of your account and you're not working at this point, you're not receiving any other forms of income, you go to remove money out of this account or take money out of this account and you have to pay taxes on it as well. So not only do you have fees with this account, you're paying taxes in the account as well. You're 65, 70 years old, you don't have any form of income, and so this can really hurt your retirement. So if you wanted to retire at a certain age, you might find that the timeline to retirement is pushed out because of all these different factors. So there are tax implications, okay? The second thing to a 401k or an IRA are their fees. There are fees to maintain these accounts. Now, 401ks and IRAs, they're normally managed by brokerage accounts. And so in order to manage those accounts, the money manager or the broker for the account will take a fee to do that. It's usually a monthly or a quarterly fee, and it depends on how much money is being managed. And so if you can imagine, the first thing we have right here is tax. This is a huge piece of it. Depending on your tax rate when you go to retire, this can be a huge ding to your account value when you try to take it out. So if you think you're going to have a certain amount of money available to you when you retire, you may just not have that amount of money available because of these taxes. And the fees, oftentimes they're hidden. Oftentimes they're hard to find. And so you have to understand that when you go and you apply to put your money into something like a 401k or an IRA, just understand the fees that you're being charged. And like I said, they're normally per quarter or monthly fees, okay? And these will also eat away at your end result. So if your end result is something like $2 million to retire on for the rest of your life at age 65, well, you have to account for taxes and you have to account for fees, okay? One other thing that's really big is market loss. So you know when you invest in a 401k, the employer or the brokerage company will go out and they will invest in different types of things. They'll invest in exchange traded funds. They'll invest in the stock market, all different types of accounts that you choose. Normally the employee will get to choose. A lot of people, they don't understand the different types of investments, but they'll still have the option available to them to be able to choose, which is great. But what you're doing though effectively is you're exposing yourself to market risk. So what happens is if the market goes down, if the market decreases, you could lose some or all of your retirement depending on how much the market goes down. Now, if the market increases, that's great, but you've still lost your principal. And so I'll just give you an example. If the market goes down by 50%, if it comes up 50% the next day, you haven't gained your entire principal. The market actually has to come back 100% for you to be where you were before you originally lost. And a lot of people don't understand that. So these three things, tax, you have fees to manage the account, and then market loss can really pummel your account. And so by the time you're ready to retire at the age of 65 and you think you have maybe $2 million to retire on, it maybe looks like more like $1 million because of all these taxes, fees, and the market loss. Because we can't predict the market. The market could tank at any time, but it just depends on different economic factors, right? So we can track different economic factors. We can track inflation. We can track how much money is being pumped into the economy, which means that there's more money into the economy, that people are plowing more money into the stock market, overflating the stocks. We can track all of that stuff, but we just never know. We don't have a golden lens as to know whether or not we're truly going to lose in the market. And so that's where the risk comes in. There's RMDs. So RMDs are required minimum distributions. So when you turn 72, the government says, hey, listen, we're going to require you now to take certain distributions. And the main reason to do that is because the government wants their tax money, right? So there's a certain amount of taxes you're going to pay on this account. If it's a traditional 401k, where you're paying taxes later, the government says, well, listen, 72 years old, we want you to start taking required minimum distributions because we want you to start paying taxes. We want you to start paying us the tax that you owe us on that money. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. And then the vested piece of it. So when you're with an employer, they're going to contribute a certain percentage, whether it be 3, 4, 5, or 6%. But the question is, are you vested in how much the employer has put in? So you're always vested in your own contributions, but if you get laid off or you get fired, or if you choose to leave that company, guess what? You may no longer be vested in the portion that they put in for you. So if by the time you leave the company, if they put in $100,000 into the account for you, well, guess what? You may not be vested in that $100,000. So these are all really good points to keep in mind when you're thinking about the different types of things you want to invest in. And this may be for the person that's just starting out in the workplace. They're looking at different things to invest in. Do I do a 401k? Do I do the stock market? Do I do employer match? Do I not? These are really, really good things to keep in mind. So the second thing is we're comparing the 401k to an IUL. Now, what is an IUL? An IUL is an indexed universal life insurance policy. So what are some of the key benefits to the indexed universal life insurance policy? Well, it's tax-free. What happens is you have two buckets, okay, when you get this policy. One is the insurance bucket. Okay, so this functions similar to a regular insurance policy. If you pass away, your family, your friends, whoever you choose to leave this money to, they're going to receive a certain sum of money. It's a whole life policy, which means it's going to last as long as you do. Okay, so it's never going to expire as long as you're still alive. The policy is still alive as well. It's tax-free though, meaning there's a life insurance bucket, but there's also a cash bucket in these policies. Now, the majority of that money that you pay every single month for this policy goes into the cash bucket. And the cool thing is these policies are linked to an index that you choose. Similar to what you would invest in here, these policies are also linked to the market, but in a different way. They're linked to an index that you choose. And so if the market goes up, you're going to receive the gains of that market increase. And if the market goes down though, you're not going to lose a penny. So we call that zero is your hero, right? So you have a zero floor. So let me just repeat. If the market goes up, based on the index that you've selected for this insurance policy, you're going to get the gains credited to your account, either on an annual or a monthly basis. If the market goes down, you're not going to lose a penny. So if you can picture that, you get all the upside gains without any of the downside loss. Now, the policies are subject to a cap or a spread depending on how you do it. But the way we structure it, we can make sure you're getting the max benefit out of these policies. But the biggest thing to consider is here, they're tax-free. All the money in that policy, in that cash bucket, is growing completely tax-free. Completely tax-free. Whenever you want to take that money out of the account, it is tax-free to you. The tax code, if you want to look it up, is tax code 7702. That's what allows this policy to be a tax-free policy. There is cost of insurance. There are no fees, but there are costs of insurance. So in order to keep this policy alive, in order to keep the death benefit alive, so that should you pass away, your family, your friends, whoever you leave your money to, get the death benefit, there is a small cost of insurance to maintain the policy. The remainder, though, of that goes into your cash bucket to increase with the gains in the market. Okay, so I'm going to say it again. The majority of the money you put into this policy is going to go into your cash bucket. There is a small percentage, around 1% to 2%, that goes into the cost of insurance. This is to maintain the insurance policy. Other than that, there are no fees associated with the policy other than the cost of insurance. There's no loss here. So guys, there's no loss. There's a zero floor. Let me repeat. If the market tanks, you're not going to lose any of your money. So as an example, if you have $100,000 in an index universal life insurance policy and the market goes down 50%, 50, you're not going to lose a dime. The person in here, if the market goes down 50%, is going to lose $50,000 of their $100,000. And when the market goes up again, another 50%, it goes back up where it was, this person's not going to have their $100,000. This person's only going to have 75 because it's 50% gain on 50,000. And that's the key. This person here just lost $25,000 from the market going down. This person right here still has their 100. So guess what? When the market recovers, they're gaining from 100,000 and they're gaining from 50,000. That makes sense? So no loss in here. The next one is money when you need it. So if you try to take money out of your 401k before you're 59 and a half, you will get a 10% penalty plus a full tax penalty if you have a traditional IRA or 401k as opposed to a Roth IRA or 401k. So you can picture it, 10% penalty upon, in addition to tax implications as well in here. And this is just money when you need it. No taxes imposed, nothing. All tax-free growth, tax-free when you take it out, no expenses, no fees imposed there. And then the fifth part of this is, and this I threw this in as an additional really cool benefit that life insurance has now. Not only do you have this policy that's accumulating cash for you linked to an index, but you also have living benefits. So should you get sick, should you have an illness, should you have an injury, you can use benefits in this policy, part of the insurance benefit of this policy, not your cash, but your insurance benefit, you can use while you're still alive without having to pay it back. Completely tax-free. And that just depends on whatever happens. That depends on the severity of the illness, severity of the injury, but you can potentially use these living benefits tax-free without having to repay them. And that comes out of your insurance benefit, not your cash. So just to recap, 401ks, we have taxes, we have fees, we have penalties, we have loss in the market, we have required minimum distributions that you need to take by the age of 72, and are you vested or are you not? Index universal life insurance policies, they are tax-free. All there is the cost of insurance. You have no loss in these policies. There is a floor of zero here. Money when you need it, you can take out the money anytime, completely tax-free, and there are living benefits as well. So listen guys, there's a lot to go over here. There's a lot going on with the index universal life policies and how they work and 401ks. If you guys want to hear more, if you guys want to know more, if you guys want to explore an index universal life insurance policy and see if it's right for your family, please send me an email at info@fivepillarfinancial.com. 5 is spelled out. It's all one word. info@fivepillarfinancial.com. Until then, guys, take care, and I will see you guys in the next video.